welcome and good morning. I'm so thankful you're here with me today. This is going to be great. I'm so looking forward to it. Yes, you've turned into the right spot. This is the Vision Alignment Show, where we all understand how important it is to have our core beliefs, our core values aligned with our vision. So, without any further ado, I'm going to get to it real quick. But first, let's hear a little bit more about this fine message. I'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate you being here. This is phenomenal. If you're listening live, put in a hashtag live. If you're listening on replay, put a hashtag replay. Either way, let me know where you're coming in from. I would appreciate that. As always, to be entered into the raffle to win a free signed copy of my book. Sometimes it does take a brain surgeon. Just put a picture of you winking in your timeline. So when you wink, I want you to begin to think, well, if this guy next to me, if this guy here knows what makes him unique, and it's not my eye, what makes me unique is my ability to share my story, my willingness to share my story with other people in order to have a lasting impact on their lives. So that is why we wink. And when we wink, we begin to think about what makes you unique. Because if you can understand what makes you unique, then you can begin to use that to serve someone else. That will mean all the difference in the world in their lives. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. What else? Oh, yes, share this video out with as many people as you can. So sharing this video out, it allows more people to get to hear about what we're talking about in terms of vision alignment and how important that is for us all to be more happy and more successful. So I look forward to that. What we want to talk about today is really more of an understanding that we need to understand and appreciate and be grateful for what we have in life. So for me, I know I'm grateful for all the things around me. I'm grateful for this house. I'm grateful for this office. I'm grateful for the relationships I have. I'm grateful for coffee in the morning. I'm grateful for some small things, but I'm also grateful for larger things. But I'm grateful for the talents that I have left. I'm grateful that I'm still able to speak at all. I'm grateful that I'm still able to see somewhat. So if we can understand that, what we're grateful for, if we can take note of those things that we're grateful for, then we're going to be able to lose sight of the things that we've lost. So I lose sight of the fact that I've lost vision in one eye. I lose sight that I've lost some of my taste of smell, or some of my sense of taste. I lose sight in the fact that I have a shunt, and yes, it causes me problems sometimes, but I don't focus on that. So I focus on what I'm grateful for. So let me ask you, what are you grateful for? And what do you practice every day or every week in order to show what you're grateful for? Tell me about it in the chat box. I would love to hear about it. So that's one of the things that I want to make sure we all understand, that is the funny thing about life. Because if we, and this actually came from a post that Michael Ray did this morning. And I don't know if you know who Michael Ray is, but he's a one of those LinkedIn sensations, and he's very, very popular. He is very gregarious. He's very lively and energetic, and he's full of love, and he's full of smiles, and he has what's called the Louisville Smile Project. That is the company, I guess, that he owns. And it's important for him to continue on with that mission of the company in order to be able to spread smiles throughout Louisville and the U.S. and really the world. So pretty cool that that he's able to do that, and I want to continue to carry on that message. So when we do that, when we understand the importance that we have of spreading love, of spreading smiles, of focusing on what we have and not what we've lost, then we are beginning to make a change in the world. And we really want to be able to make that change, because making a change in the world is hard. It's hard to do. But the more we can do that, one person at a time, one smile at a time, one face at a time, life is going to turn out much, much differently than what we planned. So, that's a part of the story that I talk about, how we know that life is going to turn out differently than we planned. And it doesn't always mean that it's going to be negative. It doesn't always mean that you're going to end up with, problems with your brainstem, like I have a cavernous malformation. All those things, they can be good things as well. So that is what we're talking about today, is how we can take hold of the things that we have, take hold of the things that we're grateful for. So for me, some of the things I'm grateful for, I've already told you, but other things like my wife, my kids, and the success that they're having. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the chance to be able to live. I'm grateful for the chance to be able to live in the United States, where I have a lot more freedom, I think, than I would have in a lot of other places. I'm grateful for the healthcare that I've gotten, which has allowed me to be able to speak at all. I'm grateful for the group of friends that I have with the National Speakers Association. I mean, I actually had breakfast with one of them this morning, and having a conversation with my friend Dave Caperton. And by the way, let's salute Dave for all the work that he did. I mean, last week he did 3 of these shows and just tore it up. He was phenomenal. I'm so appreciative of having him in my life, and all the value he brings me. And he's very well spoken, very intelligent, and yes, he is very funny. So, kudos to Dave for coming on the show and handling things from that perspective. So, yes, grateful for Dave and NSA in general, because NSA has really helped me a lot over the last few years. When I think about NSA and how I joined 5 years ago, I know that when I joined, I wasn't at a point where I was ready to really launch into a speaking career. Although I thought I was. I had no idea what I was doing. But the people there have been so helpful for me to be able to launch this career and to be able to speak in front of people that, 5 years ago, I never would have been doing this. I never would have been doing this, because I wouldn't have had any idea what to do, for one. And then 2, I wouldn't have had any idea what to speak about. So NSA has helped me with that. And I look forward to having more of this goodness come from NSA, because the people there, they just give out of their hearts, and they don't know any different. It's an incredible place to be. So thank you, NSA. So what else are you grateful for? If you would, please tell me about it in the chat box or the comment section, and help us all to understand what you're grateful for. Because if you can do that, if you can understand your gratefulness, then, like I said before, you can focus more on that and focus less on what you don't have. I don't have the ability to drive anymore. I don't focus on that, because I have great friends that will come and pick me up and take me to lunch, or they'll take me to coffee, they'll take me to breakfast. It's hard to imagine, giving up driving because driving is such a big part of the way we live here in the U.S. But giving up that freedom and allowing somebody else to come and get me, it's not an easy thing. So I'm grateful for the friends that I have that are willing to come and pick me up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. What else? What else are you grateful for? Tell me about it. I'd love to hear more about it. But if there's nothing to write off the top of your head, I'll give you a few minutes for you to think about it. And as I continue to talk more about what I have, or not more what I have, but some of the things I've learned from the cavernous malformation that I had, and how I really now consider that a gift. A gift that I was given was to be able to have a cavernous malformation, this malformed blood vessel in my brainstem. And that malformed blood vessel bled, and it put pressure on the nerves to control my vision, but also put pressure on the nerves to control my voice, my tongue, my face. My whole right side is numb. That is a gift, and I want to tell you why. So one of the first things that I'll tell you why it's been a gift is it's given me I found my true calling. So being a speaker is something that I never thought that I would do. I thought it was always something that somebody else would do. I spoke at my high school graduation, yes, but that was much smaller, I think. Oh, look, there's somebody that's commented. So we'll walk over here and we'll see who commented and what the comment is. Mark Usick live from Ohio. Good morning, Mark. It's good to see you this morning, man. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Great. It's great to be back. I'll tell you that. Well, so yes, you were there for that day when I spoke at the high school graduation back in 1985, just a few years ago. But when I spoke at graduation, I had no idea that there were going to be 3 of my nephews come after me that spoke at graduation as well. So seeing what that meant to my dad and how it brought tears to his eyes, I've never lost sight of that, and never, well, I shouldn't say never, but I haven't given up on the impression that had on my dad. He enjoyed going to conventions where he could listen to speakers. So one of my dad's favorite speakers was Jerry Clower. Jerry Clower was a great storyteller. He did lots of different things with his microphone, and it was impressive how he told a story. He was one of my dad's favorites from the National FFA convention. In hindsight, my dad was the one that inspired me to be a speaker. He always talked about how the former presidents, made a living or made an income from giving their speeches. My dad wasn't a public speaker, but he spoke in public. He spoke on Sunday mornings. He would read the liturgy from work, or the scripture at church. And yes, he would even practice beforehand. So that's part of where I get my ideas and pushes me to practice more. So I practice my speech quite often. So I've got to ask you, have you found your true calling? How do you know if it's your true calling? Is it something that you feel is a burden, or is it something that gets you excited? My relationships are deeper than they've ever been. Until November of 2020, I was still able to drive. During the pandemic, there was no place that I wanted to go, though. All the stores were requiring masks, and my vision was limited anyways. So Connie and I spent a lot of time together. I mean, a lot of time. She talked about getting a second job just to get away from me. Not really. But there's no question that our relationship has grown stronger. I've even let her in more into things that are happening inside of me. I've let her know how I feel and sometimes what's going on in terms of other medical conditions that I have. Have your personal and professional relationships changed? The third thing that I've learned is that I've become a role model for my kids. I hope I've been a good one. My kids are well, my kids are older now, but at the time they were 11, 13, and 15. I wonder what it was like to watch all this happen through their eyes. You're a role model as well. People watch what you're doing and they see the success that you've had, and they put two and two together. This is something that I struggle with. I try to do my best, but I know I know quite often I fall short. I fall short of others' expectations, and I fall short of my own expectations. When you are a role model, it comes with a burden. Are you conveying what you want to as a role model? We're not able to convey that very well with Zoom calls and phone calls. So being face to face is one of the best ways to convey some of that, if it's possible. Another thing that I've learned is I've learned to step away. When to step away? Have you had to sit down with your parents or your grandparents yet to tell them that they really shouldn't be driving anymore? There are times when I can hear or see or sense that there's something bad about to happen. I'm more apt to get out of the way. Like my driving. My condition worsened, and when I had my recent brain, that's hard for me to say. When I had my recent brain bleed in November 2020, I knew that it was time to step away. And that was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. So what do you need to stop doing? What are some of the early indicators that you look for? I probably should have stopped driving a long time ago. So what are some of the changes that you should make, but you're resisting? Change is hard. Giving up that freedom to just pick up the keys and walk out the door. It's hard to give it up. Picking up the keys was always so easy. I've learned how to look at the bigger picture. My vision for success in life, for a successful life, has changed. Over the years, I'd like to think I've learned a lot over the years. But who knows? Think of how far you've come. Celebrate that. I've learned what it means to have deep conversations. This is where you go from talking about your parents, vacations, weekends, and how to make the world a better place. How to have an impact on everybody's life. How can you be 1% better today than yesterday? How do I treat others? How can I control my temper? Sometimes silence is the best form of conversation. What's your practice? I can ask you, what's your practice for staying alone with your thoughts? I've also learned that it's more than just me. What I do or pursue has an effect on everyone. At the same time, I have a lot of encouragers. I have a lot of cheerleaders and a partner. People want to see me do well. People want to see us succeed. You succeed. Sometimes they're afraid of having too much success. You having too much success and becoming too much of a person, too much of a different person. But success doesn't ruin you. It reveals you. So what are you going to reveal? Another thing that I've learned is I've learned how to deal with my illnesses head on. Whenever I had a chance to do something about my medical conditions, I did. Never was there a time when I sat back and then let happen what was going to happen. There were always calculated risks. Are you taking the necessary risk in your life? I left my old life and started anew. That's another thing that I learned. I learned how to leave the past from for the most part. It's hard to do sometimes, but leave the past and start new. Starting over is hard, but rewarding. I was given the opportunity to leave my last company, also known as I was fired or canned. That's the last time that I knew I needed to make a break. The last 5 years have been very difficult. We've had to borrow against our 401k. We've racked up credit card bills and sold vehicles and life insurance policies and switched health insurance carriers multiple times. The mission hasn't changed. We are committed to it. I've had my fair share of guardian angels, sometimes even angels and investors. Are you staying in touch with your old relationships? Another thing I've learned that I've been given something to say. I've always been a talker, but my brother closest in age, would always command the crowd. I grew up wanting to be like him. Don't tell him I told you that. Everyone knows Kyle, and yes, Mark, I'm sure you know Kyle as well. But now I have something to say that will make a difference in people's lives. But I still didn't know how to say it. So I joined Toastmasters, a great organization. Then I added on a membership to the National Speakers Association. Now I'm about to be the president of the Ohio chapter. How did that happen? It happened because I love the association so much that I wanted to keep it continuing, keep it going. In whatever small way I could contribute. I started as a director of membership and then took prospective members to breakfast. I love a good breakfast. I love NSA. It was called personal congruency. This is what vision alignment is all about. Your vision. What is your vision? I've also learned that I've been thrust into a leadership role. In 2000, I took the president role of a not-for-profit organization. That feeling and sense of leadership has never left me. What do you have that you have inside of you that you've always been reminded about? People have constantly told you, you have this ability. Let it out. What do you have like that? I know you have something. I've also learned that the outside doesn't matter. I've always been very focused on how I look. Just ask my mom. This has taught me that sometimes the scars are what matters most. The outward appearance is just a shell of the person that's inside. There are many people that look and act differently than me, or speak or have a much bigger following. They speak more. They have more impact. When you look at the other people that you're trained, you're trained to look at not to look at their appearance, but you still do. This is where your cognitive bias, those blind spots, come into play. How do you see yourself? Another thing I've learned is that my memory is with singular vision. So normally when I see in double. But when I have memories of things, I don't see that way. I don't remember it that way. I remember things in a monocular way, a singular way. Why is that? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. You often hear from doctors, listen to your body. Well, I would say listen to your brain, because there are many times where we overwork ourselves. And when we do that, we cause our brain damage. When you wake up in the morning, if your head hurts or if you're just tired, you're still tired, go back to sleep. Your brain needs rest. And if you can give your brain rest, then life is going to improve. There's also something called non-sleep deep rest, NSDR. That is where you are not physically working, not looking at something, not watching TV, any of those things, but you're resting your mind, you're resting your brain. That is important to have as well in terms of growing and not only growing, but also having good rest and good life balance. So you may have heard the story about a wrestler from a local school that made it to the state tournament. They said he had an unfair advantage because he has autism. He had a special coach that traveled around the mat with him, telling him what to do. They also said they had an unfair advantage because he was blind. The other person had to stay in constant contact with Caden in order for him to have any idea of where he was. They said he had an unfair advantage because of all these reasons. I think they were right, but not for the reasons you're thinking of. He had an unfair advantage because he doesn't see things the way you do. I first ran into Caden at the Ohio School for the Blind. He was looking for his cane. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was in a room by myself, and should I help him? Does he want help? Should I let him know that I'm there? It was even before my first day, so it was really, really difficult to be able to stand there and to let him struggle. But that's what I think he wanted and what he needed from us. But Caden and others with disabilities don't see the world. Caden and others with disabilities don't see the world that you and I do. Everything is more simplified. They see right through they see right through people's actions and motives. Do I think Caden had an unfair advantage? You bet I do. There are a few other things that I've learned, but I want to leave you with all this for today because we're at about the end of our time. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate your time, and if there's ever anything that I can do for any of you, by all means, let me know. But as always, keep one eye on the road.